Hello, and welcome to Soul Aligned CEO Podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Morey. And on today's episode, I'd like to have a solo conversation about a topic that I think is on many of our minds and hearts. And that is dating and relationships and love while you are on a spiritual journey. So, welcome. So, I want to share with you today some personal insight and experiences. Let's talk about, what does dating look like now? How does it occur when you're coming from this different vantage point? Let's also talk about how to fully experience when you are on a date and to be present and to let go of that monkey mind. I also want to share how I've come into the whole dating experience, really letting go of what my prior beliefs and expectations are. And lastly, I want to talk about something that I think is really important to everyone, no matter where you are on your human journey, and that is to have fun. So let's dive in. I want to let this conversation free flow a little bit and see what comes through. I do want to share a little bit about a recent experience that I had. And I think maybe the tips and insights might be helpful, especially if you are in a similar place in your life. So, I want to start by sharing, in case you don't know. So, I have been single for about 4 years now. Back in 2020, I went through a divorce, and that experience catapulted an already occurring spiritual awakening. Even though at the time I didn't really have the language back in 2019, 2020 to understand what was occurring, now looking back, I can really see that that's where I was on my path. And so, those of you that are on a similar journey, you might relate to the fact that it can be a little bit isolating being in that space of reflection and really searching or seeking, healing, releasing, letting go, shadow work, dark nights. It can be a really deep place to be in. And a lot of times we experience those things alone. And so for me personally, the last several years have been very solitary. I have spent a lot of time just in personal reflection and exploration and really connecting and seeking something outside of myself. And there's a place for all of that. And I do just want to say that by no means is it a race, that time is really a construct in our human mind. And so, whether you are on this journey for several months or years or a decade or more, doesn't matter. You will get to a point where you feel ready to be out in the world again. And this is a place that I really got to about a year and a half ago. I felt comfortable with where I was. I felt confident in who I am. And I knew I was in a place where I could start getting out there and engaging in the world again. And so when I decided that I was ready, I really just jumped into what I was familiar with and what I had done prior. And that was to join a dating app. And I thought, okay, this is the best and easiest way to interact and meet people. And while that experience might work for some, for me, I found it to be a little bit too two-dimensional. Being on the screens and on the apps and texting and even doing video chats, I was really having a hard time connecting. And so while I encountered some interesting people and people that were nice and were friendly, I was not really building anything that would lead to a potential connection and in-person date. And so to be honest, I felt at times a little bit frustrated because I really didn't know then how I was going to meet people if I wasn't kind of officially like putting myself out there and trying to meet people. And so I decided to, a few months ago, just take a step back from trying so hard because it wasn't working. And as we all know, the universe is pretty funny when you decide to release your expectation of how you think something should go. Oftentimes, the universe will conspire and show you really what's possible. And so, I want to share an experience that occurred for me a couple of weeks ago when I was just out in my day to day life running errands. I encountered a man that started up a conversation, and this was not a conversation that I was expecting. I was in a store checking out, and I was just focused on my to do list. And this person was able to kind of see past that and pick up on my energy and my state of being and started a conversation. And so we talked for a few minutes, and then he asked if I would like to meet up. And my first instinct was, whoa, what's going on here? Like, I'm having this conversation and it's proceeding. And now this person is asking me if I want to meet up. And I kind of had to step out of my monkey mind for a moment and drop in and realize, okay, like this is okay. Like this is how things used to occur before we all had cell phones and computers and apps and all these different things. People used to just encounter each other and have conversations and meet in real life. And so I'm sharing this experience to just give you an example of how, when you're just present and living, and you're in a space and an energy of being open and ready to receive, you never know what the universe might put in front of you. And so there's nothing wrong with dating apps and meetups and groups that are online. But if you are having a similar luck that I was, really just consider living and being, and you might be surprised what you come across. So, the next thing that I want to talk about is, let's say that you've gotten to the point where you are going to go out on a date. And so you've met someone, whether it's on a dating app or in real life encounter, and you've agreed to go out on a date. And so, what does that look like now, coming maybe from a different vantage point? And so, this is something that I kind of grappled with because how was this going to be? Because I feel like a completely different person. And, putting aside even the spiritual things that I encounter and experience, I'm a different person just because of life and what I've gone through and the woman that I've become. And so, how was I going to be and just fully experience having an evening and a conversation with another person? And so, going into it, yes, of course, I was nervous and uncertain, but I was also really excited because I did feel ready to have this experience. And so I think coming at it from, again, a lens of really being present and leaning in. And so when you are on the actual date, my biggest suggestion is to be in that moment. And as easy as it is to be kind of multitasking and thinking about what's going on during dinner and then what comes next and then what activity is next and how are we going to end the night, instead think about the current moment and how you're feeling and really drop into your body. And that's something that is honestly still very new to me, Jenny, kind of post awakening experience, is to really rely on my body and the messages that it's giving me. Because if you get out of your mind and drop into your body, it's really insightful. It's very easy to then be aware of what's occurring and your surroundings and that feeling of safety. And you don't have to feel so nervous anymore. And so when you're on the actual date or experience, really lean into it and really allow yourself to feel and to be present and to be in your body. The other thing that I want to offer as something to think about is to really let go of any preconceived notions of how dating used to be and really any beliefs that you have about what's going to occur. I think coming into it now, again, having dated a long time ago, I really wasn't certain about how this whole experience would be. And so I wanted to be conscious of not bringing into it how dating was the last time for me. And that was back in my early 30s. And so things have changed. Society has changed. I've grown. I've changed. And so I wanted to let go of those preconceived notions about how a date should go and just be who I am and be okay with being uncomfortable, not knowing, because going into it, you can't really know how it's going to go. And so by just having an awareness of being in the now moment and being okay with this is who you are and this is how you experience things can make the whole experience really a lot more enjoyable. And so, lastly, I do want to share probably my biggest tip about the whole experience, and that's to try and let go and have fun. And it kind of coincides with everything that I've been talking about: being open, being present, leaning in, really being aware of your body, and allowing yourself to fully experience what's occurring. We are sensory beings. So enjoy what you're seeing, enjoy the music that's playing, enjoy the smell and the tastes of the foods. Really allow yourself to dive into what I'd call those simple pleasures and really release making things so complicated. Have fun, whether it's enjoying the conversation, laughing, going for a walk, doing some sort of activity. Just really release and allow yourself to enjoy and to experience and to let go of the thoughts that are in your head. And that's really what allowed me to be as present as possible. Now, sure, it was very different. I'm very different. And especially if you are clairaudient or clairsentient or an empath or have other psychic abilities, it is different going into a more intimate one-on-one experience with someone. But at the end of the day, I'm still me. I'm still Jenny. I'm still here in my current body experiencing things through my eyes and my senses. And that was my biggest takeaway, to allow myself to do that and to be okay with whatever I was feeling. And so I want you all to know that it's okay. And it's okay to be uncertain or to maybe be scared or nervous. But the thing is, saying yes really propels a series of energy and really allows the universe to see that you're open. And so I have kind of taken it upon myself to allow myself to say yes when it feels right, to go on new experiences and to encounter new people and to really live and be here fully again. And I think that that's really important. So I hope that you've enjoyed this conversation. I really want to start sharing more about these types of experiences that I think many of us can relate to. Now, I know that the podcast is kind of coming from the vantage point of being a entrepreneur and being a CEO. But really, what I have always intended for the podcast to be is a full reflection of life on this human journey. And so, being soul aligned to me is so much more than just your vocation or what you're pursuing professionally. It's about understanding the relationships and the interactions. It's how we look at health and well being, its nature, its experiences. And so, Soul Aligned CEO is really a journey about being here and being that CEO of your life, no matter where you find yourself. And so, I hope you'll continue on the journey with me. I really appreciate all of the support, engagement on YouTube and Instagram. Liking, following, and sharing really does help get the message out. I hope that you have found today's conversation insightful and informative. And until next time, I wish you much peace, love, and joy as you pursue being soul aligned.